Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today I'm out in the greenhouse and I need to tie up some of my tomato plants because they're really growing. They're doing really good this year. I'm very happy with my tomatoes. This is probably the first year that I know of for sure that all of my tomato plants are started from seed. Most of them from seed from tomatoes I grew last year. And this is the best I've ever seen them do, which is amazing how everything else has been going very slowly because this weird weather, like today it's cloudy and kind of cold, and then yet tomorrow it could be suddenly be really hot and clear. So we never know what to expect. But regardless of that, I mean, our greenhouse, it's not really insulated, so it doesn't stay warm, that warm in here on cooler days. It's warmer, but that's why my peppers have slowed down quite a bit, but they're starting to take off. I'll show you those in a little bit here. But anyway, my tomatoes are doing great. And so anyway, I thought I'd show you how I like to prop up my tomatoes. There's so many different ways to do it. You can get tomato cages and stakes and all kinds of stuff. But, you know, we have Pat put in these different, just they're kind of flimsy, just little supports here and there that go across. The best ones are the ones he has in the center because they're also the supporting things for the greenhouse roof. But then he put, I'll show you these too, but he put cross pieces there. And so those make it really easy. Here I don't have any cross pieces. I keep debating whether or not I want him to put any up. So what I do is I actually tie my tomatoes up and I use whatever yarn that I have on hand that I don't really care for. I either don't like the color or somehow I ended up with it, or I just don't like the type of yarn. So this is one of those yarns, both the color, it's not that it doesn't have any use, it's just I don't like the type of yarn it is. And so I just will pick one like that and I'll use it up in tying my plant. So right here I have one that's already tied up, and as it grows I will just gently wrap it like that. Now I've got a couple more here that aren't tied up at all, and so like this one here, it doesn't really need it yet, but it's going to soon. And so I want to get that tied up, and then I have a piece coming off of this tomato that I'm also going to be tying up. So the first thing I want to do is make sure, let me bring you back up here. So I've got this piece coming across right here, this board here that he put up for me to tie things onto. And then I want to make sure that I cut a piece that's long enough to go around that, doubled over, long enough to go around that, and to go around the tomato plant itself. Now here's the key, because you want to be careful if you decide to use yarn that you tie it in such a way that it's not going to cut into the plant, because it is kind of thin. Some people will use long strips of just cotton fabric where it's flat and they can wrap it around there. But me, I've always got yarn on hand too, and I can just keep a roll of, you know, a skein or a ball of yarn out here and use that. So let me show you how I do this. Okay, so I like to make a loop in the yarn like this. This is one way I do it. And I'll make sure that I get down. I don't like to start from up here. I try to get it down kind of low, like right in here, and below where it branches out, whether it be branching out from a sucker or a leaf. Then I like to make sure that the knot is going to go under that. So I wrap the loop around, and then I pull the yarn, the two strands of yarn through like that. And then coming up here, I'll just wrap it and tie it however it works. I don't make too big of a deal about it. And then as it goes along, as you saw me do earlier, is I'll just continue to, you have to keep up on it though. You have to check it every day. Wrap, you know, letting it wrap around, you know, guiding it around this as it goes up. Now, a couple things I want to say about suckers. There's so many different schools of thought of what to do with them. When I first started growing tomatoes, I would get starts from the store and then grow them in here. And I got lots of tomatoes and I didn't know anything about suckers. And so I never pinched them off ever. And so someone said, oh, you're going to need to pinch off all your suckers. So I started doing that, and I noticed a huge decrease in the amount of tomatoes that I got when I did that. So it really probably depends on who you are, where you're growing your tomatoes, what kind of tomatoes you're growing. I'm thinking that these can all be factors into it. For me personally, I just find that if I mostly let them do their own thing, I tend to do better. But, you know, the school of thought is that amount of green and stuff you got going on there, that's why they call them suckers, right? Then the smaller and less tomatoes you're going to get. However, again, I seem to get more tomatoes when I do it this way, when I pretty much just let them go. But I don't totally let them go. I will break off all the lower leaves, especially anything that's going to touch the ground. So, because to me, those are the leaves that are the suckers, because they're not up there high collecting the sun, and they're touching the ground. And we've heard it said that, you know, if the leaves are touching the ground, it's going to make them more prone to diseases. And I don't know how true that is, because again, I used to just let my tomatoes do whatever, and they were always healthy and great. But to be on the safe side, I break off those lower ones, because I figure if nothing else, those leaves aren't there sucking all the energy from the plant, because they're really not needed down that low. The ones that are up high, in my personal opinion, because they're in the greenhouse, are the ones that we need the most, because they're the ones that are collecting the sunlight. And so, yes, I'll do that. And then I also will break off any suckers that grow really low to the ground, really close to the ground, and the ones that grow up high. So once the tomatoes get up this high, I usually break off the suckers there, because I don't want too much branching out up here. And then once they get to this point here, when they get this high, which is, you know, taller than 5 foot, because I'm 5 foot and this is taller than me, then I usually try to keep sort of just breaking them off up here, because mostly for the sake of, well, I don't really want them growing up there and just creating more darkness in here for the rest of my tomatoes. And so it's to just keep them lower, easier to handle, and also to keep more light coming in from above. Because where this particular greenhouse is located isn't the most ideal location. We used to have one over there where the chicken coop is, and that was the best spot. But that was just like your Quonset style hut or your high tunnel style, that, you know, with just the plastic over the, you know, rounded poles. But then he built this one to be more of a structure, so it's got a foundation and stuff, and we decided he wanted it up against the house, and it still does really good for us. All right, so here's the tomatoes on the other side. So most of these that you see here are Romas, and for the most part, with these boards going across, one thing I like about that is I can actually kind of weave the tomatoes back and forth through those, but not entirely, especially when they're right like this. They're not quite tall enough to weave back through here, but then they're too tall to stand up straight by themselves. So then I just tie them directly to these things here. So I did that over there. So you can see quite a bit. So all these here, this little center row, and then these here are all my Rio Grande Romas. This is the Castelluto Genovese, and they are doing excellent. So I might get a lot more tomatoes off this year. So I'd say it's pretty close to being almost 3 feet tall. And then these are the black Japanese ones that I have, the Truffelli. And so they're all doing great. And then all these over here are the black Brandywine, the Vernissage, black Vernissage, and then the 2 purple ones right there. And I still have some in pots because it's still been too cold to plant them outside. While I'm here, I'll show you how my peppers are doing. They're finally starting to take off again. So these are the peppers right here that I grew from seed from dried peppers that Ellen Fisher had sent me over a year ago. This, I don't know what pepper this is. I don't know. It came up in a pot by itself, as did this one. And so I don't know what these are, but they took off and they're doing really good. So I just put them in their own pots. And then, okay, here's the Marconis. They're starting to finally look better. And then the Chinese 5 colors, they're doing good. They're doing pretty good now. These ones still, especially this little guy, is still struggling, but I'm starting to see these look a little bit more lively. These are Marconis too. So you look at that, and you look at these Marconis, these ones definitely look better. But I think the main reason why is anything over here gets more light than the stuff back here, because, you know, now our blackberries, the thornless blackberries, are starting to take over out there in the middle. These are one of the things I would like to move out to the property, are the blackberries. And then the grapes, you can see grapes right there forming. So, and then when those grapes in there totally fill in, it can get pretty dark over here. So then we have to rely on the light to come in from above, and that needs to be cleaned. So anyway, yeah, but my basil's doing pretty good. And then that other random pepper that I don't know which pepper it is, So, but it looks healthy. I mean, it's looking really healthy. So I'm glad to finally see the peppers taken off. My neighbor said the same thing. Somebody else said the same thing. It's like everything just kind of came to a stop because of this weird weather we're having. But, you know, the tomatoes, it just have been just surprising the heck out of me. This wasn't supposed to be a greenhouse update. It was supposed to just be about how I tie up my tomatoes. Well, anyway, this is just how I do it. It doesn't mean it's the right way or the only way. It's just what has always worked for me, always. And I've been growing tomatoes for somewhere between 15, 20 years in there. I don't know. It's been a long time. And yeah, so it's just that now I finally got to a point where I can grow them from seed without the use of added heat or light and get some really good plants. So no, it doesn't take any extra electricity, and so I'm really excited about this. So we'll see what kind of harvest we get from our tomatoes this year. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.